News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Okay, this is what the reports are saying. Charges against Scotty Scheffler expected to be dropped after his shocking arrest. First of all, there is no body cam. That came out today. There's no body cam of it. Go figure. But I actually believe that the charges should stay, and I believe that it should be figured out in a judge with a court, by a judge and a judge and a jury, because nobody else had this problem. Nobody else disobeyed the traffic. Nobody else drove in the grass median and disobeyed the cops. Nobody seemed to be confused like Scotty Scheffler allegedly was at who was directing the traffic, who was in charge. Nobody. That traffic was backed up for an hour when he arrived on the scene, according to all these reports. Nobody, and yet in that whole hour, nobody got into a tiff with the cops. There's no reports that show that anybody else got in a tiff with the cops. Just him. So I believe he felt, and I understand, let me also say this. I understand what it's like to be somebody who's like, I belong there. I am a part of it. I'm a radio guy, and over the years, sometimes when we're trying to park over here and some of the people are trying, hey, you can't do it. I'm like, I work here. I mean, I work right there. You know, I'm not here for some concert to get free parking or sneaking in. Or like at events we're going to and there's a long line, and I'm like, I got to be there because I got an event that I'm going to, etc. So I know what it's like to be eager and to try to talk to a cop to get around for legitimate purposes, not because you're a jerk. But that's not what this was. This was a complete and total blow-off of the cops. And then when they try to stop you, you accelerate. And you drive on a median where nobody else is driving. So, and there's cop cars everywhere. I love how people still continue to say, well, maybe he didn't know there were cops. Well, then, why were there 5 or 10 cop cars with their lights flashing everywhere? I mean, what are those? It's just so stupid. So the charges still stand as of right now. Second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, disregarding signals from an officer directing traffic. Well, the first one's a felony. The other 3 are misdemeanors. He refused to comply and accelerated forward, says the police report, and he's the only one. So, question, as the rumors are now being published that Scheffler's arraignment is postponed until after the championship, after PGA Championship, because there's a conflict with Scheffler's attorney and the attorney's schedule, so they delayed it by a month. Traffic backed up for an hour. Scheffler described it as a big misunderstanding. I love that. Oh, okay, there's my cue. There's my cue. I'm being told to bark like a seal, whatever, like a dog. Okay, big misunderstanding. Why? Because Scotty Scheffler said in his public statement, so I'm going to say the same thing. It was not. It was not. It was disobedience. So it appears like it may, according to reports, get dropped. The charges may get dropped. Do you agree with the authorities and their decision to drop the charges against Scotty Scheffler? Do you believe this was an honest misunderstanding, as Scheffler claims? And do you think you would get the same treatment if it was you instead of Scheffler in that car? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Jerry in Burleson, you are on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I was just saying that, I believe anybody would take the same treatment.
What do you mean, being arrested, spend the night in jail and everything?
Yeah. As long as you got $100,000 you could throw their way, yeah.
Now here's the other thing. Do you believe that you would be treated the same way as far as the charges reportedly are going to be dropped? Do you think it would be dropped against you?
Well, no, not if I didn't have $100,000 to hand over.
What do you mean, for bail?
Drop everything. No.
Oh, you're alleging that Scheffler has bribed the DA?
Well, maybe not bribe. They call it donation, don't they?
Well, I mean, you don't know this. You're just saying it as a joke. Is that right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, because there's no proof of it, unless somebody talks. But, yeah, that's
no proof of what?
Now.
I'm sorry. You believe there's no proof of what?
Of a bribe.
Okay, so let's take that out of the equation because there's no evidence of that. So I'm just going to ask you directly, do you think you would be treated the same way if it was you, that the charges would be dropped?
Of course not. I mean, the reality is no. Of course not.
Okay, well then this is not justice, is it?
No.
If it's dropped.
No, by any stretch, no.
Do you believe
I mean, he hurt somebody. He hurt an officer at that. I mean, you don't disregard, police. I've been stopped plenty of times for speeding, and not plenty of times, but 2 or 3 times, but in my lifetime. But no, I don't disregard them. I don't disrespect them, and I take my ticket as because I knew I was at fault. And that's it. You have to respect authorities. And that's the bottom line. You don't just disregard them.
So you don't believe that this is a misunderstanding, do you?
No, of course not. I mean, he's not that dumb.
Why are so many people, at least half the callers Friday night when this first broke, on my show were saying that they think it should be, tossed out, the charges are bogus, they believed him. Why do so many people do that?
Either they're fans or they're dumb, or they're disrespectful to police to begin with. I don't know.
I appreciate
no idea.
I appreciate your call, Jerry in Burleson. Thank you very much. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Well, we have a shock study that just came out. I don't call it a shock, the Daily Mail does, but nonetheless, a shock study shows how 42 million people that get food stamps spend their food stamps. Okay? New study shows of the 42 million people in America that get food stamps shows that how they're spending it. And a new study, and they're not buying broccoli. That's your big hint. And I want to ask you about this. This is going to be a good one. Because over the years, I've heard, many folks call in and say they see people in line at the grocery store buying things they should not be buying with their, what do we call it? The food stamp card here. There's some word for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's like, it's so that it destigmatizes it. I can't remember what the card is called, but how many times have you seen somebody abusing food stamps? Like they're buying crappy stuff at the store. And we're paying for it. And we're paying for them to become obese, which means we'll pay for their health care. It's also not good. I'm going to tell you about that coming up next. And my questions for you on this, if you want to chime in already before I get into it, is this. Do you want to make big cuts in the food stamp program, especially after you hear what kind of junk foods they're buying? And what kind of abuses have you seen at the stores? What kind of abuses in food stamps as you go to the stores have you seen? People in front of you or behind you, you're like, oh my gosh, look at all that crap. And they're using food stamps to pay for it. All that's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Lone Star cards, that's what they were called. I thought that was it, but I wasn't for sure because I've never had to use them. And, I'm going to say, you really have to be careful how you judge because you could be in the same situation where you have to get a Lone Star card through no fault of your own. Maybe something happens catastrophic to your family or something. I mean, anything can happen. It can always be worse, is what one wise person taught me. It can always be worse. However, I don't want my money paying for people to buy junk food. And I want these programs cut back because I think a lot of people are in these programs that do not belong in them, that don't need the help. Brand new study shows that 42 million recipients of food stamps spend their food stamps and they're not buying broccoli. It shows how they spend their food stamps. Soft drinks, potato chips, cookies, ice cream dominate the welfare grocery lists. Do you want to pay for that stuff? Do you want to pay for potato chips, cookies, and ice cream? I don't. That has nothing to do with health. I barely eat any of those. And I'm going to pay for somebody else to eat those all the time? That's not healthy. We shouldn't be buying that. Coca-Cola and Sprite and other soft drinks are the most commonly bought items in the $135 billion a year food stamp program. They call it SNAP, but that's another way to make it seem like it's just a normal thing to be on. No, it's not. Candy, potato chips, frozen pizza, ice cream, cookies, and other ultra-processed food dominates the top 20 items, says a brand new report from the Economic Policy Innovation Center. Do you want to make big cuts in this food stamp program? I sure do. And also, what kind of abuses have you seen at the stores? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. What's the worst thing you've seen somebody buying at the grocery store with their Lone Star card, their food stamp card? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. This report says recipients spend significant portions of their food stamp allotments on junk food. These non-nutritionist foods they're eating include sugary beverages and ultra-processed food, which can lead to poor health, this 35-page study says. Whew. Nasty. The SNAP card is to help low-income families buy groceries and snacks and non-alcoholic drinks. How many people would buy booze and cigarettes with them if they could, right? Oh, my gosh. Well, I think it frees people up to be able to buy booze and cigarettes if they want them, you know? That's the first thing that should go. Other items on the top 20 list can also be problematic. Shelf-stable juice, for example, includes added sugar. There's a lot of highly processed foods they're talking about. Here we go. The food stamp enrollment surged from 17 million beneficiaries in 2001 to 42 million last year. How did we go from 17 million to 42 million in 22 years? Wow. I thought our country was going great under President Hussein Obama, under Trump, under Bush, but I guess not. This is now close to the entire annual turnover of Morocco. The costs have exploded from $31 billion to $135 billion. Morocco. Pre-made meals, ice cream, sausages, deep-fried chicken, and ketchup are some of the best-loved examples. All right. Anyway, I don't want to pay for people's junk food. Do you? And what's the worst thing you have seen somebody buy with food stamps or the Lone Star card at the grocery store? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. It's been a while, but I've heard some good ones from you. What is the worst thing you've seen people buy with food stamps at the grocery store? I bet you there's a lot of people that are grocery store clerks that can tell a lot of stories about what they've seen. Soft drink, potato chips, cookies, and ice cream dominate the welfare grocery lists. So Republicans therefore want to slash $27 billion off of food stamps this month in this month's farm bill. I support that 110%. So do you want to make big cuts to the food stamp program? And what kind of abuses have you seen at the stores? Mike in Richardson, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Chris, you're a great American. I've seen nothing but egregious purchases. I always see somebody whipping out that EBT card. They've got steak, they've got lobster, they've got king crab. It's disgusting. I've never seen somebody buying essentials with that card. It's the person who can't afford to be buying this kind of stuff is whipping out the food stamps to buy it. It drives me up the wall every time I see it.
So you literally have seen people buy steak and lobster with EBT cards?
Yep, at Whole Foods, of all places.
What?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh, dude. Wow, that's a lot of money. So you know what?
A lot of money.
You know what this must be doing? This must be supplementing their income so they can buy nicer stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so.
Like I don't need it. I don't need it, but since I get it, I use it to get nice stuff. You know?
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your call, Mike. Wow. Lobster and steak with Lone Star cards. What is the worst thing you've seen people do with their Lone Star cards, their food stamp cards? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. My gosh. So they're talking about cutting them off. They're talking about cutting back $27 million. I think they should. I would absolutely support that. I think people need to be limited in what they can buy, and we should micromanage it. You know why we should micromanage it? Because it's our money. If they want freedom, then they should get off the program. We should really come up with a list of the government should come up with a list of 20 or 30 or 40 things you can buy and nothing else. Bethany and Keller, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Bethany.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I was calling my father-in-law. They live up in Paris, Texas.
Yes.
And his stepkids, their kids are on food stamps. And what he does is he'll pay them $50 and they'll give him $100 worth of their cards. So basically they're getting cash and he's getting a discount on his groceries.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So people have figured out the system.
So I want to make sure I got this right.
Uh-huh. This
is obviously fraud. What they're doing is they are somebody gives them $50 to have $100 worth of food. Uh-huh. So they relinquish the $100 worth of food card to him. That way he can buy whatever he wants. So it's basically like buying a gift certificate from somebody to use. Yeah, for half 50 cents on the dollar. Wow, mm-hmm. That's fraud, obviously. Yeah, that's total fraud.
Yeah, and apparently it's a big deal in their area. That's what a lot of them do.
That's sick.
So I don't know if they're buying drugs with it. I don't know what the cash is, but they're not getting the food that they're allotted.
They obviously that means they obviously don't need the food stamps, and that also obviously means they are they're going to get something that you can't buy with the food stamps, which is probably really bad then. Thanks for your great call. Appreciate it. All right, Kathy in Princeton, you're coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. We have one line open at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9. Now we have two lines open at on the Chris Crock Show. 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. What is the worst thing, what kind of abuses have you seen with food stamps at stores, or the Lone Star card, if you will? And then do you want to make big cuts in the food stamp program like I do? I sure do. That's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. What are the work requirements for people to be on the food stamps? I will tell you what that is, and how this has just grown and grown since it was launched in the 70s. All that's next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Look at this. It's crazy. As recipients stay on food stamps for longer, more and more bad stuff is bought. Ultra-processed foods presented as ready to consume, taste good and they're cheap, but no, it's bad for you. Anyway, they're buying a lot of junk food. Ice cream, cookies, potato chips are on the top of the list for food stamp purchases. What are the worst things you've seen people buy with their Lone Star card, which is a food stamp card? And do you want to make big cuts in the food stamp program, as Republicans are looking at doing in the upcoming Farm Bill, which I think is great? Their work requirements to get food stamp is limited, weak, and currently waived completely or in part in 34 states, says one of these experts in this Daily Mail article. The history of the food stamp program is one of expanding enrollment, higher spending, benefit payments growing faster than inflation. It was launched in 1978. Wow. Man, We're hearing some craziness, man. One guy said he sees people buying steaks and lobsters. We heard one woman in the last segment who said she knows somebody who sells their food stamp card to somebody else that buys it for 50 cents on the dollar. Shame on all of them. Shame on them. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Let's go to Kathy in Princeton. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Chris. First-time caller.
Oh, well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Get a little special something. Here we go. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Well, I used to work at a convenience store. I ain't going to say which one because I ain't going to point fingers at where it was.
It's fine.
But, yeah, people would come in. A lot of Hispanics would come in with their food stamp card and spend $100 on lottery and tobacco or beer, and then their kids would load up the counters with junk food, and then they'd hand their EBT card over.
Oh, my gosh. So they have hundreds of dollars for booze and
lottery. Cigarettes. Yeah.
Cigarettes.
And, you know, whenever the receipt prints out, it has the balance of the card on it. And I always looked at the balance out of sheer curiosity.
Yeah.
Because my brother's on disability, so he can't work. He only gets like $500 a month from disability. And he only gets like less than $200 a month. But these people would have $700 and $800 and $900 on their food stamp cards.
Oh, my gosh.
And, I mean, it's just a total abuse of the system. I think it is a sin that convenience stores accept EBT cards.
I agree, because there's nothing good they sell for the most part as far as healthy stuff. It's probably 10% of the stuff they sell, right?
Yeah. But it's horrible, the advantage it's taken, you know. I mean, I was raised by a single mom that struggled to put food on the table, and she was told she made $7 a month too much.
Oh my gosh!
To qualify for food stamps. So she was like, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" And the lady was like, "Well, you've been figuring it out this far."
Oh gosh, yeah.
But that was back in the day that you could like float checks and, you know, make things stretch. And you can't do that anymore.
Man, it would have been good. It would have been good advice to ask her employer to like somehow lower the wages just enough to make it, because that's what it's meant for, you know. I appreciate your call, Kathy. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Mike in Glen Rose, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Mike.
Chris, love your show. A second-time caller.
Thank you.
I've seen them buy baskets of steak and lobster and then turn it into cash in their neighborhood as they sell all that. Then they get all the money they want. They can go out and buy beer and lottery tickets and cigarettes, and they've converted that food money into fun money for them.
Wow.
So, and the only way I could see changing that is require an ID to be able to buy beer and punch a hole in their driver's license, if you will, and we'll treat them like they're under 21. You can't buy beer or lottery tickets, cigarettes, or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't want to finance somebody's beer, smoking, or lotto habits. I don't want to help somebody to free up their money to get lotto tickets and to waste it on that, but not only that, or to actually win because they've been using money from the food stamp cards that we paid for, you know.
So enlist the help of those cashiers so they can, if they see a hole in the driver's license, they'll know not to sell them. They can't sell them the beer and the alcohol.
Oh, because the hole means you're receiving SNAP.
Yep. We're treat you like you're under 21.
I like that. I appreciate your call, my friend. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, you should be able to buy contraband. What do you mean? Alcohol and cigarettes and lotto tickets if you are getting food stamps, because that means you can't afford it. I think that's a great idea. I don't know if they can do that, but that would be a great idea to somehow have their ID with some kind of marking on it. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227, or to maybe make it a rule or a law that you cannot purchase alcohol, tobacco, lotto tickets if you are receiving them. And maybe there's a way to say, I don't know. There's a way to do the other way, which is, hey, if you use food stamps, you can't do that, and therefore the clerk has to deny you these products unless you come back on a different time and don't use your EBT card on the same visit. I don't know. There's something they could do maybe. Luana in Fort Worth, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Luana.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you so much. Yeah, I had a bit concern. I think it's called double dipping.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the government paying for free food, making sure these kids have free food during the summertime, and their parents are on food stamps? Because that's the only way you can get these free food, free meals.
So
I think that
you're saying they're double dipping by getting free lunch? Oh, I see. By getting free food at school and getting a food stamps.
Yes.
I agree.
They can afford to get that. If they can get the child's name and then maybe send a social worker to the parent and say, well, why can't your son bring some lunch to school? So
right.
I'm just trying to figure that out. It's like, to me, double dipping.
That is exactly right. That's a brilliant observation, because I totally agree with you. The food stamps is paying for the lunch, and now you need free lunch. I agree with you so much. I saw a story. I am very much against the schools feeding children in the summertime. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yes. Actually, they have stands set up for the families to come and get free food. Okay, you have to show them that you're on welfare or, food stamps. And they do, and they still give them the food.
Anybody can show up. You can even be an illegal, I think, that doesn't even belong in that school. It's so wrong. And then there's even that, like these schools have gone out, and so many people support this stuff, like a free breakfast, a free lunch, and now they're saying free dinner.
Okay.
At schools.
Come back at 5 o'clock.
Who's raising this kid?
It's unbelievable. I know we want to feed our children, but what are the parents doing with the money that the government has already given them?
I'm going to tell you what one of the parents is doing. I couldn't believe this. When the first time ever I saw this thing where they're feeding people in the summertime, and I saw a dad who had an SUV. It wasn't the nicest one, but it was still an SUV, which are expensive, and it was in a good condition. And he was leaning back on it, the car, saying, "I appreciate it, so I can plan my budget out." Like he indicated that he uses the money towards his budget. He relies on it for spending on other things that he doesn't need. That's what it's all about.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
And then I was in the grocery store one day. Let's make it a quick story. And I was behind this lady. Her grocery cart was loaded from top to bottom. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have all those groceries.
Yeah.
But so she finally purchased all her groceries, and then I get mine. And then I said, God, that's a lot of groceries to the cashier. And she said, yeah. And you know what? She still had almost $1,300 on her card. I said, are you serious? Yeah. I was like, unbelievable. And so as I was going to get in my car, and I go out there, and she's getting in her brand new Lexus. And I'm like, huh?
Are you kidding me?
How you were driving a Lexus? Got on all her, they wear that 24-karat gold over there, And yeah, she was loaded with the gold on, and she had a little wrappings on and everything. I'm like, and she was putting her groceries in the car like it was just a normal day for her. I'm like, unbelievable.
That is that's theft. That's all it is.
That's just unbelievable. I'm like, don't they know she has a husband that's making enough money to have her driving around in a new Lexus?
Yeah.
Come on now. Something's not right with the system. Something's not right with the system.
No, not at all.
But that was my 2 cents.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luana. Appreciate you. Look forward to your next call. Great call. All right, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. We're going to talk to Steve in Irving. He's got a personal story about being on food stamps, or at least something about food stamps. Do you want to make big cuts in the food stamp program? And what kind of abuses have you seen at stores with people that have food stamps, a.k.a. Lone Star cards? The list is growing, and how many people are seeing some bad stuff. This is crazy. I definitely want to hear from you too. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. We have 2 lines open on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. All right. Talking about food stamps, And this Daily Mail story says that a shocking new study shows 42 million recipients how they spend their food stamps, and they're not buying broccoli. Soft drinks, potato chips, cookies, and ice cream dominate welfare grocery lists. We're also hearing a lot of people that say that folks that have money are buying, lotto tickets, cigarettes, booze. So that's what they're getting freed up to do, unhealthy things or foolish things. And I don't want to fund any of this crap. And the Republicans are looking to cut $27 billion off the food stamp program, which I would support 100%. Absolutely, 100%. So asking you, do you want to make big cuts in the food stamp program? And what kind of abuses have you seen at stores here in Texas with their Lone Star card? Some of the stuff I'm hearing is really bad. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Let's talk to Stephen Irving. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Chris. Man, I was showing your call screener there that I had to gather myself and just to come on the air and tell you this story because it's absolutely been so personal to me. Thank you for having me on, and if you'll give me just a minute to explain this. When that lady called in earlier and was talking about the drugs for food stamps, I personally witnessed that myself when I was in my early 20s. I had a brother that was 2 years older than me, and he was married, and he ended up having 3 kids. At the time, he had 2 little girls. One was 7 and one was 5. They were my nieces, Mm-hmm. And during this, and I was like 23 years old, man, working my butt off on the freight docks and making good money. But, I worked my butt off. Mm-hmm. And I would get my nieces for about 3 weeks to a month every summer when they were, out of school or whatever. Well, they weren't even in school, one of them. So anyway, long story short, every time I got them, they were in filthy conditions, right? Lice, all kinds of. I'm not making this up.
No, I don't doubt you.
It was bad, and so anyway, my own mother was facilitating this. Would take their, I think it was $140 or $150 a month food stamps, and would pay the full price for it in exchange for my brother and my sister-in-law to provide her with opioids and other drugs.
Wow.
And I mean, dude, I knew what was going on, I mean, she really didn't hide it, but man, when those little girls came over to stay with me that one summer, and they were filthy, and they were constantly getting kicked out of school for having lice and stuff. And when I would take care of them, man, my wife and I would take good care of them. And Chris, this crushed me, man. And this is hard for me to even remember that when my niece came over, I picked them up that day, brought them to my house. And I'm a cook. I like to cook. Mm-hmm. And I made meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and all that. She said, the 7-year-old said, Uncle Steve, I love coming to your house. You have the good food. I was like, you have
the good what?
Food. You have the good food.
In other words, they're wasting it all.
On drugs, yeah. And it just, man, I had to walk in the room, and after about 10 minutes, I dried my eyes, and I come back out, and I made it my life's mission to do everything I could to feed any child that I possibly could.
That's a touching.
This is the system is a enabler to this type of behavior, man.
Right.
And it needs to be, if they're going to continue it, it definitely needs to be more heavily regulated because they're just destroying society with it.
Steve, thank you for a very touching and wonderful call, brother. I really appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man. What a sweet guy he is. That really was wonderful. It's not the kids' fault. You really take care of them, and you show them how to be. You teach them how they should be, and you love them, and you realize what the situation is, and you do what you can to help. Melanie in Cleburne, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Melanie.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on? Hey, listen, I usually, you've been, not usually, but tonight we've been talking about what sounds like it's American abuse of our,
We got about 20 seconds, just, go ahead.
20 seconds, I'll let it rip. Okay, when you go to HEB, you know what kind of person you're pulling. If you want to pull up, if you're pulling up next to an American or not. And you can go in, I can stand there with my ramen noodles and my loaf of bread, And anytime, right now, if I wanted to, go down there, and there would be illegals in front of me checking out with one packed basket, like Lawana said, or sometimes two baskets, and they go directly out. I've never, ever, God is my witness, never seen one get in an old car. They get in any manner of luxury car, and if not that, it's a brand new truck.
Thanks for sharing. You hit the nail. I got to roll, but thank you very much. I'm glad you guys are sharing all this and keep doing it. You guys were quite full of great stuff tonight to share on that, and I appreciate that.